Football Heroes and Villains podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content, and contests, including our NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app to get last-minute tickets at the lowest prices guaranteed. Use promo code SGPN for $20 off. D-Gens assemble. Welcome back to Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me, as always, is my co-host and partner, Mr. Andrew, the TD King, Rob. Happy hump day, sir. How are we doing?
Yes, sir. It is the eve of draft day, baby. 24 hours of best ball drafts coming up. I can't wait. I'm excited. Should probably get a lot of sleep tonight. Probably won't. Just going to power through. But I'm excited to talk some breakout wide receivers, which I will be drafting tomorrow during draft day.
Are you going to work tomorrow? I got to imagine you're going to take the day off.
No, I am working about half day, and then I have to come home and prepare, get everything lined up, taken care of, making sure I have all the drinks and food supplies I will need for the 24 hours. Maybe a little nicotine. Who knows? Who knows? It's up in the air yet. But I'm going to need some stuff to stay awake. And so I will work a little bit. I'm not working Friday, as I will be getting done with this at 3:00 on Friday, get a little sleep, and then the wife, I, and the two kiddos will be going camping Saturday. So Jesus. I'm hoping I can wake up and be fatherly, shall we say?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you're going to be sleeping in the woods, getting attacked by bears and shit. Andrew, you're just going to be snoring. Just going to be dazing off.
Yeah, man. Hashtag dad life.
What are you going to have for snacks? I mean, chain smoking, I don't think is going to work. I mean, I think Kramer would get, some real appreciation out of that, very degen oriented, but like, what are you rocking for snacks? Like, you can't just rock like energy drinks for 24 hours. You'll kill yourself.
It's true. Yes. So I'm going to have some peanuts, get that protein in, get some pickles. I love pickles. Pickles are a good one. Going to have some chips. I'll bring myself a sub. Maybe some cereal, a little bit of everything, man. I want it close by because obviously I can't be getting up and just go raiding the fridge. So going to need it by me. We'll have a cooler with me as well for those thinking, how's he going to keep milk cold? How's he going to keep his drinks cold? I will have a nice cooler beside me. Maybe a few beverages.
I better see that cooler on air. Like, I better see you pick that shit up and put it on camera. I'm just
saying. I will. Oh, it's a nice Pelican one. Has a Redskins sticker right in the front. Can't turn to the side. Has some cuss words on it, but we'll keep it in the front.
Yeah, because we don't say cuss words at SGPN. No way. That doesn't happen. All right, we're going to be diving into our fantasy football breakout and sleeper wide receivers this evening. We're talking redraft only tonight. Probably mixing some best ball conversation, It's where you can find me and Andrew in the best ball streets. Worst comes to worst, if you don't watch Andrew for 24 hours, just make sure you jump in tomorrow night between 8 and 9 p.m. when I'm going to be rocking my time slot when I'm jumping on there.
That's right. Oh, and everyone, get in and donate as quickly as possible if you are so inclined. If you do want to potentially win some raffle items, the quicker you get in, the more potential. I mean, we're giving away at least one raffle item every hour. So the quicker you donate, the more chances you have to win some sweet items. There's a wide variety of stuff. Underdog credits, SGPN merch store credits. We have Trophy Smack was kind enough to donate 2 of their new NFL PA metal wall art. It's like right now they have, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts. They're pretty sweet. Go to trophysmack.com and take a look at those. We have Michael F. Florio doing a 15 to 30 minute Zoom call with the winner for a fantasy consultation. Pete Overzet donated a $100 gift card to his merch store. So plenty of stuff. Make sure you stop by tomorrow and check out all the cool raffle items.
That's pretty solid there, Pete. Well done. I appreciate that.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, let's dive into some sleepers and some breakouts. at the wide receiver position. Who's your first man up? Who do you want to talk about?
First man up and my most exposed wide receiver now on Underdog Best Ball, Jahan Dotson, the breakout candidate this year.
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. Non-biased pick here, obviously by your boy. But Jahan Dotson, last year, led or tied Christian Watson with leading the NFL rookies in touchdown catches with 7 while missing 5 games. I said it during the preview last year when Sean and Kramer both had me on talking about Washington Commanders football. Said that I really felt like Dotson was going to be a red zone target for them. And season went by, and he definitely was. He already scored a touchdown in their first preseason game this year. Looks like he's locked and loaded with Sam Howell. Sam Howell seems to be doing very well for all those Sam Howell haters out there thinking that Jacoby Brissett's going to come in and take the job. Unless Howell really falters down the line, I don't see that happening. So I do really think that it's the best case possible here for Jahan Dotson to have Howell in there. And I mean, honestly, man, like I really do think double-digit touchdowns is a possibility. I think it's a stretch possibility, but I do think it's a possibility. And for a guy that you're getting, in the middle rounds of drafts, that could be your wide receiver 3, 4 in regular redraft. I feel like it's a good value for him. I mean, he's probably going to see somewhere in the ballpark as average 6-7 targets a game. I really feel like it's him and Terry McLaurin that pick up, all this Eric Bieniemy hype, and all these players that are going to be drawn up are going to go to those 2 guys. They're the 2 best guys on the team. So, yeah, I mean, Dotson's an easy click for me in the middle rounds, and I honestly do think he's going to creep up a little bit more by, all of our regular drafts for these redraft leagues.
So in 3 wide receiver leagues, you would be comfortable, like without even going into a flex conversation, you'd be comfortable starting him as your 3rd wide receiver?
Yes.
Yeah, because I would prefer to have him as more of like a flex option. I just feel like there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense still, and I know that you and I have talked about this before. That's my only pushback here is I'm really heavy on Terry. Terry is definitely in my top 10, exposure for best ball this season for wide receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's number 6. It's like 20% rostered. Like I've been leaning in on him at his spot. Obviously, you're getting Jahan Dotson about 3 or 4 rounds behind him, and probably I would guess in redraft leagues probably somewhere between rounds 6 and 8. Which is fine, but I would prefer if I had him stacked as like my 4th or 5th receiver rather than my 3rd, just because you and I have talked about how deep this position is this year. We've seen a few dominoes fall with injuries. Treylon Burks today, that wasn't so great for me. Another guy that I've been targeting heavily, but it just feels like the health is pretty strong right now across the position in general. So I just feel like there's still a lot of guys that I would prioritize ahead of him. Where do you see him falling in line for targets? I mean, I have to imagine he's going to finish behind Terry still. Lock stock at number 2?
I do believe so. Again, look at the roster. I mean, it's Terry up top for sure. I fully agree with that. And I think it's Jahan. I mean, really the other guys fighting for targets probably going to be Antonio Gibson and one of the tight ends. I don't know which one yet, though. Logan Thomas. Okay. He's going to probably be the guy who starts the year, but Cole Turner has been looking really good in training camp as well. So I think the tight end combination will finish 3rd on the team. But yeah, I mean, I do think Dotson's locked in for the number 2 target position on the team.
What if we're both wrong and it's Curtis Samuel?
It's not going to be Curtis Samuel. I can tell you right. It's just he'll be the home
You're
run
the insider.
Hitter. Yeah, he'll be the home run hitter. And again, I said this a while back on our shows, and now I hear a couple different other podcasts talking about this. But Kramer asked me this question, I think you did as well, is how do you see Curtis Samuel and Antonio Gibson, falling on this roster? And I think those are the 2 guys that are going to fight each other for targets because they can both do the exact same thing well. But I do think it's going to be Gibson who beats out Samuel. But Samuel's going to be the guy who probably has like 3 long touchdown catches throughout the year. But that's what he's going to do. I mean, he'll be lucky to see 4 or 5 targets a week. I mean, I honestly think he'll probably average 3-ish a week, maybe. So Dotson, when I look at him in drafts, this is what I hear.
Let me be your hero.
Do it for the pod. Do it for the pod. He very well could be a hero this year. We've discussed the touchdown totals before. He's sitting at 4.5. Is that right?
Yes, 4.5. And he scored 7 last year, missing 5 games. So load up. Even money, baby.
That's a low touchdown market for Jayon. So I'm definitely smashing that over, with the assumption that he's going to play a full 17 game season. Obviously should be in his, potential outcomes, per last season. Obviously they had Carson Wentz. It was a little bit different still, but seems like they're very comfortable with Sam Howell, and Howell's been looking good in training camp. So let's ride Howell at the moon, baby.
Yes, sir. Oh,
all right, my first guy up here, and I know this will make a good conversation because it's related to one of your guys. I have Nico Collins. He's coming off the board in about round 9 in standard 18-team redraft leagues, 3 wide receivers, 2 flex positions, and he's somewhere between wide receiver 50 and 55, per the ADP market. I think he's in a great situation. He's going to lead the team in targets. I don't see much competition for that narrative. Anyways, I know that you'll have a name to bring up here, but none of the running backs, Devin Singletary, Dameon Pierce, they're not going to beat him out for it. I still don't see any of the youth beating him out for it. Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, old man Bobby Trees, just don't see it. I feel like the biggest competitor for the most targets and most volume is Dalton Schultz, but I still believe because he's a lower ADOT guy, he's not going to lead the team in targets. I think he can get his full. I think he's a guy that could get 6 to 7 targets easily each week, no dissimilar to Jayon Dotson. But I feel like Nico Collins is going to be the guy that getting the targets in the red zone, getting the shots downfield. And as long as he's healthy, he's just going to be used everywhere. I mean, they can play him inside and outside. He's got one of the best contested rates or catch rates, in the last 2 seasons. Volume's a little bit lower because, he was playing behind Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks was soaking up all of the, top target action. And then he also got hurt. And he is also playing with Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor. CJ Stroud hasn't looked amazing, at least in preseason, but he's looked pretty good in training camp. Do you think that Stroud will be good enough to make, Collins or any of these other guys just really fantasy relevant, where you're just like, yeah, I'm putting this Houston Texan in my lineup every week, other than if their name is Dameon Pierce?
Yeah, and I mean, might as well jump to my guy here, throw him in the conversation. But Tank Dell, I've been on Tank Dell for a while now, and we were getting great value on him in the 200s, and just in a draft last night with Megan Shoup from Fanspeak, and we saw him get drafted at 144. That's a bit rich for my blood. Yes, for sure.
You and I have seen him go early before too. You and I saw him going around 6 or 7 one time when with one of our live shows.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much of a hype right now. But again, we just saw today he scored 3 touchdowns in their red zone package. 3 on the Miami Dolphins. Just again, this was going to be my question to you: is where do you see Nico Collins doing his most damage, between the 20s or in the red zone?
I think everywhere. I mean, I don't think that there's really going to be a big difference, because you don't see Dalton Schultz being a big threat inside the red zone. He's not a big bodied tight end. He's not a go up and get it type of, tight end or, big, like I just said, big body target. Like, he's not a guy that's going to soak up those type of targets. He's a lower ADOT guy, not very physical, doesn't do a lot of blocking. He may not even be on the field for a lot of those packages. And Collins has a very physical, size to him. Like, he's big, he's strong, he can block. I just don't see any of these other receivers taking him off the field. I believe he'll play the most snaps of all of these receivers, including Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you on playing the most snaps. I do think Collins has himself locked into the one role, but I think Tank Dell could be the 2. And sure. I hate to put Mechie down because of what he went through, but he just hasn't established himself yet. And Tank Dell has been putting in the work after practices to establish himself in this offense, and he's been making a great connection with Stroud. And I feel like it's a really good value for where he's going. But I do agree with you. I like Nico Collins as well. Those 2 are my most exposed wide receivers on the Texans. And I just think Tank Dell has the opportunity to be a red zone threat for them more than people probably want to give him credit for because of his stature.
He's little.
Small dude. But
small guy.
I mean, he's showing that that the Texans want to use him in those packages. So I think both of these picks are fine picks, and these are probably the 2 guys that if anybody asked me, who in the Texans do you want to draft? It's these 2 guys. These are the 2 guys behind Singletary and Pierce, of course, that I will be telling people to go ahead and take a pick on.
I just feel like in 18-team leagues, like in kind of like a standard redraft format, I see Tank Dell just not getting drafted in a lot of spots. I feel like he's going to be more of a waiver wire darling to start the season, which is fine. I don't mind. There's just a lot of names that I like that are also going to be, kind of in the similar consideration to Nico Collins. They're in a good situation and they have really good ADP because either the public or the market really isn't taking a significant stance on them. So they're burying them, in the draft order or in the ADP list, but they still have number one upside on their team. We can transition into one of these guys right now. That's I know someone that you're also high on, Isaiah Hodgins. He's coming off the board in round 16. Big difference between him and Collins. Collins is coming off in round 9. Wide receiver 52 for Collins. Wide receiver 65 for Isaiah Hodgins. Now, I know that there's a lot of debate on who's going to be the number one receiver for the Giants, but I think, looking at you and me right now, we're both not going to be nodding our heads to Isaiah Hodgins. He had the best finish last year with Dan Jones. I think he caught 4 of his 15 total passing touchdowns last year with only, I believe, 6 or 7 games played. Just, a smaller sample size, I get it, but the group is just so average. Everybody's just going to either bring somebody else down and you're going to see some spike weeks for everybody. But I feel like Isaiah Hodgins has the safest floor of this group.
I think he's the safest for touchdowns outside of Darren Waller and Barkley. I think he leads the Giants wide receivers at the end of the year in touchdown catches. I do think that there's a world where his value is touchdowns and he doesn't get a ton of work, between the 20s that might be Hyatt, Slayton, those guys. But besides
big
Waller,
Hyatt guy now, huh? Okay.
I liked Hyatt. I took a lot of them in big boards, and I kind of let Kramer talk me out of it a little bit, throwing the shade at Hyatt, and he kind of talked me out of it. He's a Giants insider, so I felt like I should listen to him. But now we see all these Hyatt videos coming out, and it's like, okay, I might have been right in the big board, right? And so, but yeah, you and I have been on Hodgins the entire time. I know that we have both got the best value on him. He has been steamed up the board a little bit, so I feel very good about that. But yeah, I definitely think that his role in this offense is going to be a touchdown guy.
Who's the biggest threat for Hodgins? Is it Darius Slayton? Is it Jalen Hyatt? Darren Waller? Waller's just getting a ton of hype, but if he gets used to the volume that everyone believes, he's going to get hurt. Like there's no way that he can just be. He's not a guy that's going to collect 30% of a target share for an offense. And if he does, the wheels are going to fall off by midseason.
Maybe. Yeah. Waller, as far as touchdowns are concerned, Waller, Barkley, and Hodgins, those are the guys. I think Waller and Barkley are his biggest competition for the target share in the red zone. But yeah, between the 20s right now, I'm still going to stick with Slayton as the guy that's probably going to do the most damage there. But if Hyatt can establish some sort of connection with Dan Jones, it won't surprise me if we're looking at Hyatt at the end of the year and being like, that's the guy I want to draft next year on the Giants.
Well, that would make sense because next year there'll probably be less receivers there. They just won't stop signing receivers. So. Yeah, you would think, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to move on to our next guy, or did you have something you wanted to pop off here?
Yes, most certainly do. I want to tell the good people about Game Time. Game Time is have you ever tried to buy tickets to a game like through some of these other sites, and like you're going through the process and it kind of takes long and you get to the end and you're like, oh, here's the price, and then it's like,
how did we get there?
$50. Yeah, you got additional $50 here, additional $10 here. Then you're trying to, it took so long to go through it. Then it times you out, and like Game Time just doesn't have that. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. If you browse through the Game Time app, you'll see it's easy to find and buy tickets. It's the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. There's a lot of flash deals and last minute deals that they pop up. I was going through the app last night, and that was one thing that stuck out to me is that there's just last minute deals on all kinds of stuff. So Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. It also allows you to snag tickets without the stress on Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Again, it's promo code SGPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem your code SGPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Bada bing. Who's your next guy, buddy?
Next guy, Sky Moore, baby. Let's go. Kansas City Chiefs. Again, you know, it's like the Giants wide receiver room, right? Except for you got Kadarius Toney, that is probably the established guy there that we want to take a shot on if he's right. But outside of that, Sky Moore. A lot of people I hear talking about Sky Moore, and they talk about how he didn't really get involved last year, looked confused out there, you know, obviously muffed some of those punts. Not great, right? But then if you go back and look at Andy Reid's track record, a lot of rookies do not do well in that offense. It's a complex offense. Until you get your bearings about yourself, you sputter a little bit. Here's year 2 for Sky Moore. He knows the offense now. Andy Reid's made some comments about Sky Moore as well. I think that that's going to ramp up his want to do well in Kansas City. You know, he's at least a little bit established there. Richie James came to town. That doesn't really, you know, scare me. Again, I like Kadarius Toney, but, you know, his injury track record's not great. Sky Moore at least is a guy that you don't have to spend, you know, you don't have to like spend you know, break the bank to go get him. And if he ends up being Patrick Mahomes, you know, number 1 wide receiver, it's a tremendous value. You want any piece of this offense that you can get. Sky Moore seems to be a guy that is probably going to get some gimmicky passes his way, get involved in those, you know, cool ass plays that they always draw up. And he'll at least be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets, I'd imagine, and definitely 3. So I feel like it's a good value for him on a team that is, you know, projected to score the most points in the NFL. Always have a great high-powered offense, and why not take a shot on one of these guys and make it Sky Moore, baby? I want more. See what I did
nice
there?
Bit there. Yeah, I saw that. I picked up what you put down. So sell me Sky Moore versus the field here, because there's a pretty big field out of this group, like Sky Moore versus MVS. I know that you're not a big Richie James guy, so let's not include him. But I mean, he's not. I don't think he's getting cut. He was one of the first guys added to the team. Obviously, they invested trading for Kadarius Toney. Toney, when healthy, you know, should be at the top of the depth chart just based off of what they gave up for him, and there is that commitment there. But this is a pretty deep group here. So, like, why Sky Moore over Rashee Rice and MVS? Let's start with those 2.
Well, Rashee Rice, I just laid out the example of why rookies don't do well in Andy Reid's offense. So, I mean, that's one knock, and that's probably the biggest knock against Rashee Rice is maybe at the end of the season, you'll see Rice get more involved. But at the beginning and middle of the season, I don't see him establishing himself without a bunch of injuries. You know, and again, it's just he's a rookie. So I just don't think that that's going to happen per se. Sky Moore, obviously, you know, second-year guy, as I just laid that out. So he doesn't have to have that issue anymore, hopefully. Kadarius Toney, you know, hurt a lot in his career. So that's a knock against him, though I do think he's probably
already hurt.
Yeah, I mean, he could be the best guy. Justin Ross is the wild card for me. And speaking of that, we need a wild card drop. I wanted to hit a wild card right there, but we need to get one of those. He is the wild card for me. Big play guy that could be the Isaiah Hodgins of this offense, where, you know, he's in the red zone package because he has some good hands and he's a taller guy. But he just got hurt the other day, but back at practice today. So we'll see. But he hasn't played a whole lot of games since college. I mean, it's just he's kind of on and off as well. So again, Sky Moore doesn't have the track record of getting hurt. He's now second year in the offense. He scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. I mean, they at least feel like they can probably trust him more than they did last year. And again, he's not going to break the bank taking him where he's currently going. And I just feel like it's a good gamble on an offense that you want to have a piece of.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a situation where you get him as like your fifth receiver.
I didn't even address MVS. MVS is established as like the downfield guy. That's not going to be Sky Moore's main priority. He's going to probably be closer to the vest, you know, sticking around the Travis Kelce area. And I can't say anything, obviously, to Sky Moore to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is that man, right? So take him out of the equation as well. He's the guy. No one's touching Travis Kelce. But yeah, I mean, MVS is establishing himself as the downfield guy. I don't think that they really interlap for what they're going to do on this offense.
I think the best thing to do with all these guys is, get you a Kansas City receiver, but make sure that they are your fifth or sixth receiver drafted. Like, I don't want any of these guys at priority at ADP because there's just so many of them. I was taking Richie James with my last pick in the big board, in May when we were, drafting on bikes, you know what I mean? Like, we just so much value in the back end of your draft for any of those guys, or via the waiver wire after week one, once you actually get a clear idea of how things are going to be, cut up, at least as far as snaps go. But I expect it to be highs and lows for all of those guys. Like, That's why, we do a best ball show all off season, is because we want to talk about season long value, right? That's a tough situation outside of Travis Kelce. You're still going to have Jerick McKinnon taking pass catching away from some of these receivers. You're going to see somebody get hurt. You're going to see someone come in and have an opportunity, some spike weeks. Oh, look at this. Justin Ross is randomly good for 3 weeks, and then he fell off a cliff. What happened? Oh, I don't know. Kadarius Toney came back. He was healthy. Oh, they gave Rashee Rice a few extra looks. I just feel like they are not going to be kind to our fantasy wallets, this upcoming season. So I want the best value. If you can get Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney as your 5th or 6th wide receiver drafted, I'm all with it. I would probably wait for those other guys last round, second to last round, which I think is, very practical. Like, I just don't see that a lot of people rushing to get themselves a bunch of MVS. So
understandable. Yeah, no. And I agree. I mean, I agree with your sentiment on just grab one guy. I prefer to take more, and I do like MVS as well. Because again, I mean, deep threat guy on underdog, you want a guy that has touchdown upside, and he might catch a couple long ones throughout the season. Before we get to your next guy, Justin, question for you. Have you signed up for the SGPN Patreon? Of course you have. That's a rhetorical question. Don't need you to answer that. For the good people listening right now, if you have not signed up for the SGPN Patreon, please go do so. It is our way to fight corporate gambling. Sign up for the Patreon to get access to exclusive contests, including the NFL Totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize. Besides season-long contests, we also have weekly contests just for the Patreons, plus a monthly SGP Stories podcast, completely ad-free and full of behind-the-scenes stories from SGPN. There's even a Discord channel for the Patreons. Only you can prevent corporate gambling. Do your part. Sign up today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/PATREON.
Okay, we're back. Party on, Andrew. Party on.
Yes, sir. Who else you got up on your list there, big homie?
Let's go with Zay Flowers. I know that we're going to agree on this one. Just an absolute smash for me in round 8. Again, using 18 round, kind of a standard format, coming off the board as wide receiver 48. A rookie that I believe has the opportunity, at least for the receivers, to lead snaps, targets, and receiving production. Obviously,
have you seen what he's been doing?
Yeah. No, I have no idea what he's. I've been living under a rock. I haven't seen anything about Zay Flowers. What has he been doing?
Over the last couple of days when they had the joint practices with Commanders, that's the guy that stuck out from the Ravens for me. Is he is torching some of our DBs, and I'm like, yikes, that is not great, Bob. But it's good for our exposure.
He's been dominating the practice field for certain. I'd like to see him do a little bit more in like preseason.
It's like he's meant to be on the grass. Is it because his last name is Flowers? I don't know, but the correlation is there.
I like that. I mean, his skill set is fantastic. His feet, his footwork, I should say, great size, athleticism, just an awesome burst. Like, he's just cutting in and out of routes so easily. I mean, he looks like the perfect mold for what you want out of a receiver. Another issue here, though, it's just a very stacked room, right? Like, there's still OBJ, there's still Rashad Bateman, there's still Mark Andrews. I know it. I know it. Like, it feels like a middled group, but if you're looking at the social media feeds, they showed a clip of OBJ absolutely burning a Washington Commander corner. Didn't catch the ball, a little underthrown.
Well, Emmanuel Forbes is who you're referring to. Emmanuel Forbes did put his hand. I don't know if you saw the other angle, but he put his hand up and knocked the ball away before, which is why he didn't catch it. So
it was underthrown.
Whatever. Hey, he just doing his job.
Lamar's got to make that back shoulder throw. I'm sorry, it's got to be in front of the receiver, not behind the receiver. OBJ had to slow up, but all I'm getting to is he's not washed. Like, OBJ will be a threat while healthy. If he were to be injured, or Rashad Bateman were to not make it back, or start the season still injured or not able to come off the PUP list, then it's going to be wheels up for sure. But I just still feel like the offense is going to run the ball a fair amount. I feel like people are kind of overestimating this team being like a pass heavy team. I think it's more balanced than what we saw with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. I could see an easy 50-50 split, but that 50-50 split is going to produce more passing opportunities. Zay Flowers just seems like the guy, just, as far as like passing the eye test goes, the best speed, the separation skills. I think OBJ's experience definitely keeps him on the field. Maybe Flowers doesn't play the majority of like the snaps season long, but I feel like, with the right circumstances, he could be the best receiver on the team. OBJ doesn't have very friendly numbers per the market. Low touchdown total. I think his receiving yard total is like a 575, which, I mean, to me is absolutely ridiculous. I think that the market is just playing on these guys both being injury ridden, or I'm sorry, OBJ being injury ridden. I've seen even you, like and many others, pump up Isaiah Likely. I just don't see that. I don't see someone like backdooring Zay Flowers here on the roster for opportunities. It feels like he's going to be the lead guy. Again, round 8, wide receiver 48. It's about as free gets.
Agreed. I mean, on all fronts. I mean, this man can run a route like no other. He's fast. I think he just fits well with Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson and this offense is going to want to show that they can pass the ball more than, people want to give the Ravens credit for. So I think that, with Todd Monken coming on board here, I really think that Zay Flowers has the opportunity to be a deep threat as well as an intermediate threat for Lamar Jackson. And that opens it up for us in fantasy, right? Like he's not just going to be a one-trick pony. He's going to have the ability to do a bunch of different stuff in this offense. And right now, I mean, he's the only guy on the offense that is really not hurt. OBJ was hurt, is coming back from injury, and does he get hurt again? I don't know. We'll see. But Rashad Bateman was hurt, got shot in his foot, didn't feel good. Now he returned to practice. How long does that last, right? Like we had Sebastian Fearon on talking about that. There's room for re-injury, unfortunately, with that. So Zay Flowers seems probably like, I don't want to call him a safe guy because he's a rookie, but kind of feels a little safer than the other guys to take right now. So I'm all over Zay Flowers. And one of my team names this year that I have Zay Flowers on will be April Showers brings Zay Flowers.
Oh, okay. I was wondering where that punchline was going.
Boom.
Better rookie receiver to draft, Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers?
I'd rather take Flowers.
I think there's just a clear path to big production.
Yes.
Addison having Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson in the way. We've seen rookie receivers, jump on the scene, pretty quickly here the last couple of seasons. Last year you had London, Olave, Garrett Wilson. The year prior, Jamar Chase. The dude is more than NFL ready. I don't even know if you want to call him a rookie at that point, but Kyle Pitts, Devonta Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody else from that season, but every one of those guys I just rambled off, they all hit over 825 receiving yards. But to do so as a rookie, they had to lead their team in targets, receptions, and receiving yards. It's tough for me to buy that he'll lead the team in receptions if Mark Andrews is healthy, but I believe that he could lead the team in yards. I don't know about touchdowns. Again, that feels more like Mark Andrews territory.
Yep.
All right, who's your next man up?
Next man up, Marvin Mims, another rookie on a team that, there's Jerry Jeudy, who I think is established now. Cortland Sutton was established, fell off last year, deals with injuries. And I just think that the ADP value on Marvin Mims is there, which is why I really like him. They have a good schedule at the end of the year for fantasy playoffs, obviously play the Chargers week 17. So it's a good matchup there as far as like they're probably going to be behind in that game, needed to throw a lot. They're probably going to be behind in a lot of their games, right? The thing that scares me with them is, again, Russ Wilson. I mean, what's he going to do now with Sean Payton? Sean Payton, short king guy, he took Drew Brees to other heights, shall we say, as a short guy. So I'm hopeful for the offense. And I think Marvin Mims can establish himself because Sean Payton traded up, and as his first pick as the head coach of the Denver Broncos, he took Marvin Mims. So I think that the opportunity, he'll give Marvin Mims ample opportunities to establish himself as at least the 2 on the team. If there's any injuries, watch out. Marvin Mims is a very good wide receiver. Good wide, he had good stats in college. And there was a reason they went up to take him. And I'm just kind of putting my chips on Sean Payton's going to want to look like a genius, and it's going to kind of edge out Cortland Sutton a little bit. So Marvin Mims, great ADP value right now. Get him while you can.
Yeah, it's tough for me to target him in redraft just because, again, this guy feels closer to a waiver wire darling than he does a week 1 starter. I just feel like there's a lot of guys that are still going like probably around him or maybe just before him that, could be considered like ones on their team, a la, back to Nico Collins or Isaiah Hodgins, who we've already talked about. I want to say Adam Thielen is still probably ahead of him. I know that you're not in love with Adam Thielen, but like, who would you rather have, DJ Chark or Marvin Mims?
I'd probably still take Mims. Chark has to deal with a rookie quarterback, and also there's a lot of guys.
Don't you see a clear path
team.
to production for Chark though? I mean, he's going to be the two most likely to start the season. Mims, he's going to be behind Judy. He's going to be behind Sutton. They still have 2 running backs that they want to implement. Many of us, including myself, are high on Greg Dulcich. Like, just feels like there's a lot of mouths to feed right there. I mean, I agree with you. Like, another injury, domino falls. Yeah, he should be in the mix. But, before Tim Patrick got hurt, he felt kind of buried.
I think that the way that this is going to play out is at the beginning of the year, you're probably right. Chark's probably the guy to have on the team. At the end of the year, it might switch, though. It might be Mims you want instead of Chark because, Mingo might establish himself. Terrence Marshall, is a breakout candidate for me as well. As long as he's not, too injured. I saw that obviously he was carted off. I think it was for precautionary reasons, though. So, but yeah, I just think that there's a lot of mouths to feed on the Panthers as well, and some of those other guys might establish themselves, as will Marvin Mims on this team. So maybe take Chark, and then as he starts to fall off, if Mims is still out there, go grab Mims.
No, I don't hate the opportunity that he could have. I like, your point that you made about Sean Payton. I think there is some value to that. Sean Payton really hammers it home for his guys, and you could see some design plays for Marvin.
Taysom Hill.
I.e. Taysom Hill, Jimmy, James, Graham. No, I think that there is something to that there, but there just feels like a lot of mouths to feed, like I said. And I say that because I feel like Javonte Williams, like the organization really wants him to succeed. Samaje Perine, another move made by Sean Payton. Hey, we really want to see that guy succeed. Same thing for Jerry Jeudy. I think the organization also wants to see positive play out of Cortland Sutton. I think he would have been moved this summer, had there been more faith from the GM's office in Mims, in Tim Patrick, in Jerry Jeudy, him still being there. Because, I think you and I both thought, this guy should be on the move. They just drafted Mims. They moved up to do it. Like, how much room is there in this wide receiver group? Obviously, Tim Patrick getting hurt opens everything up for everyone, right? Even Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. But again, when I'm looking at some of these other situations around the league, I just feel they're more advantageous than, say, Marvin Mims. That's not to say that, like you said, by the end of the year, he's really something. He's bringing you down the path to a fantasy championship. But season long, I just feel like there's a few better options.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about, them potentially trading somebody. Like, I still feel like that's a possibility. Sutton might be on the move. If they can get a King's ransom or a haul for Jeudy. If this team starts out,
that's not happening. There's no way.
Yeah, but if this team starts out like 2-6, 2-7, again, if somebody a playoff needy team needs imagine if the Ravens lose Odell Beckham, Bateman's hurt again, and they got nobody, right? You don't think they might go out and try to potentially get somebody if that would be Jeudy?
I think.
Watch out.
I think Lamar already played his "I demand a trade for a wide receiver" card or whatever.
Yeah,
sign a wide receiver.
OBJ.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Yeah, not Hopkins, huh? Interesting.
I mean, who would you rather? I guess Hopkins would be the guy. You
Come on.
Out of the two.
Yeah. I
guess I gotta imagine OBJ was a little bit cheaper.
No, I think OBJ got more money than Hopkins, didn't he? I think he got 18 million.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I would have thought that he would have gotten less because I thought Hopkins was asking for a fair amount.
Yeah, I think OBJ got more, which was lunacy, but that's here nor there.
All right, so I do have DJ Chark as my next guy. I mean, obviously he kind of broke out as a rookie with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it's been nothing but downhill play since then, and really just a lot of injuries. If he can stay healthy this season, I see him being a big threat in the offense for the Panthers. They need somebody that can open things up downfield. I know they drafted Jonathan Mingo, big physical receiver, but Chark has just fantastic speed, especially when he's breaking in his deep routes downfield, has that go up and get it type of play style. And they're gonna be down in games. They're gonna be playing from behind. I just see there being a lot of positive game flow for DJ Chark, for Adam Thielen. I mean, really all these receivers are buried at ADP, no dissimilar to the New York Giants wide receivers. I like Chark the most out of this group followed by Adam Thielen, followed by Terrace Marshall, followed by Jonathan Mingo. I really am not dipping my toes into the Laviska Shenault territory. That's just not going to happen.
Visca.
No, I don't care how
Love
many
Visca.
videos I have to see on Twitter or YouTube of him getting handoffs. No, I'm not buying it. Again, if you want to buy Laviska off the waiver wire, by all means, go ahead. But I wouldn't even spend FOB on him. I'm sorry. Like, I just can't see something like that lasting. If for some reason Bryce Young were to get hurt, yeah, they have Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton playing quarterback probably props up Adam Thielen more so because he doesn't have a great deep ball if he ever did. That would be my only concern for Shark is maybe the Bryce Young experiment doesn't go as planned or he gets hurt. And that's really it. But if he's not, and Bryce Young is okay, he's average at best, wide receiver 62 coming off the board in round 11, you can easily get him as your 4th or 5th wide receiver. I think that's an impressive value for DJ Chark coming into the season. Again, he's already broken out. He's more of a sleeper candidate, coming off the board in double-digit rounds, second half of your draft. Definitely worth the bench stash, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My cat's yelling at me. He agrees.
I like Terrace Marshall and Mingo in the offense. Just, the unknown of Mingo and Terrace Marshall, third-year guy, has established himself a little bit, had some good weeks last year as well. So I think that Marshall is the guy I'm highest on in the offense for wide receivers. But I do agree with you. I think Chark probably has the easiest path to production at the beginning of the year. I just worry it falls off when some of these other guys may establish themselves in the offense.
No, that's fair. And similar also to the Kansas City Chiefs. This could be a situation where you see just a sharing and diverse amount of spike weeks for each guy. But when I'm looking at like talent, I mean, like you and I have gone back and forth about Adam Thielen. I still think he has enough experience and wherewithal to just play the most snaps in this offense. I know you're not a fan, but at the same time, we don't get to decide. I think if it was you and me drawing up this offense, we'd probably be putting DJ Chark, Jonathan Mingo, and probably Terrace Marshall out there. But they went out and spent money on Adam Thielen. It's not our money to spend. So
Adam Thielen.
What happened? Your balls drop off?
He didn't necessarily fall off the cliff last year. I mean, his numbers were bad, but
he's on the slide down. He got to the top of the slope.
Mm-hmm.
He's sliding down, guy. Going down.
Here's my cat's tail. He's acting all ornery because we got
a
baby, so he doesn't get enough attention.
You want another guy?
Yeah, fire away. What do you got?
Chris Olave. Few things here.
Broke out last year, but all right, I'll hear you.
Kinda, but a lot of people have been talking about like, oh, Michael Thomas. I mean, he did. I mean, he's a second round pick, so I agree with you. But I think what he can do, can he be even better this year? I see some talk of it's Michael Thomas time. It's resurgence, Michael Thomas, right? We're gonna come on, guys. It's Olave. We talked about this at length, about their schedule. From week 5 on, they play no outdoor games until week 17. That's fantastic. Bad
13
weather
of 17 games played indoors.
Yeah, but bad weather is good for running backs. Good weather is good for wide receivers. They need to catch the ball. This just opens up opportunities for Chris Olave in this offense. Derek Carr has already seemed to give him praises that you don't normally hear for a second-year wide receiver. I think I heard Derek Carr mention that he ran a route and knew exactly where Derek Carr wanted him to break out of that route. And Derek Carr said that he hasn't seen that from too many people outside of Devontae Adams. When you're talking about a wide receiver,
Jesus,
yeah, when you're talking about a wide receiver that's doing something that Devontae Adams has shown to do, not saying that he's Devontae Adams, but that's a good company to be in. I just think that Olave has an opportunity to really break out in this offense, like be an elite guy in the offense, even with Michael Thomas there. So Chris Olave, good weather guy, good opportunity guy, just good guy all around.
I mean, I'm not going to speak to his mood. Man, this cat is all over all my shit on this desk right now.
That seems like a guy. You got your pussy.
No, I mean, I like Chris Olave, but he's being drafted in round 2, Like, I just feel like
it's expensive, but
I feel like he has more opportunity to fall off of that value than he does to go on top of it. That's my only concern about considering him like a breakout. He's certainly not a sleeper, but I do believe he can go over the top of his numbers from last season. I think that's very practical. Given just the nature of the offense. It's just better. They have a deep run game. Obviously, Alvin Kamara missing 3 games, but they drafted Keandre Miller. They brought in Jamal Williams, who led the NFL in rushing touchdowns. I mean, if they don't have enough tight ends, my goodness, they've signed just about every tight end they can while still maintaining a contract with Taysom Hill. You know, they got Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill. They brought back Jimmy Graham. They brought in Foster Moreau. I'm probably forgetting somebody else. Michael Thomas, I don't think is just like a threat to Olave. I just think that they will both benefit from each other. Hello. Hi, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate that. You know, I think that they're going to be a pretty good tandem. And until you see that Michael Thomas injury, I feel like that will hold back Olave some. Can still have better numbers than last year, but not have the ceiling that he should have with a Michael Thomas list team, you know?
Understandable. Yeah. I think he'll outperform his ADP, even at the, ADP of what he's like mid-second round.
No, he's like wide receiver like 13 or 14, isn't he? I mean, he's got to be top. I'm pretty sure he's got to be top 10 to bust that ADP. Like he's going to have to finish as a top 12 player, period. Because I'm not saying wide receiver 14. Like he's he's coming off early.
So in the draft last night, I just did. He was pick 22 overall, which makes him, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He was wide receiver 11 drafted.
That's rich, my guy. That is rich.
It is, but I mean, you're
like he's being drafted at his ceiling, in my opinion.
Right? He's the one on the team.
He's the one. No
Okay.
No disagreement there.
He's going around 3 guys that are all 2s on their team in Waddle, Smith, and Higgins. He's probably going to get more targets than a majority of them. Agree?
Yeah, I would prioritize him over those guys, those specific players.
Well, if you're going wide receiver, you know, if you take a Tyreek Hill and come back around and grab Chris Olave, like I feel like that's a good bet as opposed to that and Higgins. You know, like it just I feel like the guys he's going around leads me to believe that he could outperform those guys. And sometimes some of those guys will go in front of him. Definitely Waddle goes in front of him. And I like Waddle a lot too, but I just think that he can he's still a good bet at his value of wide receiver 11. I mean, if the Saints really are a contender this year because they have a soft schedule, they have a good, obviously a good weather schedule. I just think that it's set up for him to have a good year. And again, Michael Thomas
comeback season.
Womp. Yeah. Come back to them.
Yeah.
I cannot hear you, by the way. Your sound has went off, I believe.
Yeah, this cat, he's just all over the place. He's just muting my mic. Like he is just being something right now. He's just laying all sprawled out like Rose from Titan.
Oh, you just got muted again.
How is this cat literally muting my mic?
Go.
I have no idea what he's doing. He's just sprawled out like Rose from Titanic. Like paint me like one of your French girls, Justin. My goodness. So I was bringing up Jameson Williams coming off the board in round 10, wide receiver 61. Yeah, he's suspended for 6 games. I know he pulled up today with a hamstring issue. I'm not really that worried about that. But man, if you want to talk about a second half game changer, I feel like Jameson Williams is the ticket. Electric speed, especially downfield. One of the faster prospects in the last couple of seasons, arguably as fast as Tyreek Hill per, the athletic media, et cetera, right? Everyone's very high on this guy. I am too, outside of the suspension situation. Like, if you have a league where they allow suspension players to be on your IR, like he might have to go up like 10 or like 15 spots, if you can actually stash him in that scenario. Otherwise, I do see, you putting yourself a little bit at risk because you have to hold on to him for all that time, right? You have to hang on to him for 6 weeks and they have a week 9 bye. It's not the greatest situation, but when you look at the Lions offense, like, I mean, outside of Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs, you can't tell me where there's a clear identifiable player that's going to get a ton of targets and get a ton of action, a lot of downfield looks. Sure, Khalif Raymond, Josh Reynolds, they could have some weeks here and there, but we saw what happened early last season. Josh Reynolds was playing amazing and then fell off a cliff. He just died. It's like, you want to see a dead body? Josh Reynolds is laying over there, falling from the cliff. I don't know. Just seems like a very profitable situation for the second half of the year. And if you can afford it, if you draft correctly, I feel like you can't afford this bench spot.
Yeah, I think the two things I'll say to that is, one, I think there's a lot of hype for Sam Laporta, and I think it's kind of warranted in the offense. And what does Jared Goff do well is keep the ball close to the chest, right? He's going to not want to chuck it downfield a ton because that's not what he's really good at. That's what we're banking Jameson Williams to be able to do, is get those long, deep passes. Not saying that they can't connect. I just feel like they haven't had a lot of exposure to each other, playing with each other, because obviously Jameson Williams was hurt last year, barely came back. He did, on his one catch. Yeah, like I think that it's going to the planets need to align for Jameson Williams to really do well in this offense, because there's other guys, Jahmyr Gibbs, you laid out obviously the case for Amon-Ra, there's other guys in the offense who do things well that Jared Goff also likes to throw at. So I think I like Jameson Williams, don't get me wrong, and he's going around guys that I prefer to take him over. Maybe not Nico Collins. He's going around Nico Collins. I'd rather have Collins there, but he goes around guys like Allen Lazard, Rashee Rice, Juju, Zay Jones. Like, I think I'd take the gamble on him over those guys, but it's just, I don't know. I worry that he's not going to. I worry that we're going to be let down if he's not scoring long touchdowns, and I just don't know how many times that's going to happen throughout the year.
Well, I don't think there's a perfect universe where he's only a downfield threat. Like, his speed and his separation skills also just allow him to be a great after the catch weapon. Like, his yak number should be through the roof, whether he is making a downfield play, whether he's catching something in between, 10 to 15 yards off the line of scrimmage. When you get the ball in his hands, he's absolutely electric. And even if he came up lame today with a hamstring issue, he's got 6 weeks plus 20 days, until kickoff. So, I mean, there's a fair amount of time to recover from something like that. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if he got a little bit of a dip in value because of maybe like a light injury or something like that, and maybe the market gets a little bit lower on him. What I also just don't want to be in a situation is having to overpay for him off the waiver wire in the middle of the season. You know what I mean? Like, it's week 5. Oh, someone's trying to get fresh and buy him a week early or something like that. You're just going to be kind of playing that chess game. And I feel like if you're in a situation where you overspend on running back early, this is a nice way to protect yourself down the stretch of the year. Maybe you draft him alongside some of like the more suspect receivers. Like, maybe he's on your team with Michael Thomas or OBJ, right? And you don't have a ton of trust in those guys to make it all season. But then here comes Jameson Williams, ready to play healthy, from week 7 to week 17, at least give you, I was going to say 10 games, but they have that week 9 bye. So about 9 games. I think it's a very good situation, especially just considering the amount of times that this team is going to have to pass the ball. Their defense is bad. 5th worst last season for most points allowed per game. Even if they make some type of progression, I don't see them getting outside of the top 10 or the bottom 10, however you look at it, for most points allowed. Their defense isn't great. I like Jack Campbell. I like Aiden Hutchinson, but their secondary is absolutely trash. I think that this team is going to score a lot of points. The offense is going to be on the field a lot. And again, it just doesn't feel like any of these other guys are going to duel him for opportunities other than Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs.
Where, like what wide receiver on your team do you want him to be drafted? Like your 4, your 5, 6? Like what ideally are you looking for?
He should definitely be 5 or 6. And in deeper league formats, like if you're in a 22 team league or 24, I think he absolutely should be on your roster. I think that you can survive if you're playing the draft appropriately, or if you want to be like aggressive in your draft. Jameson Williams should be a guy that you're rostering for sure. If you're trying to really make other people make tough decisions, I think getting Jameson Williams on your roster as like your 5th wide receiver is going to be a good move, because it's not like you have to stop at that. You can continue to draft receivers after him. I think that you could back him up even with a couple of sleepers that you might be able to get you a handful of solid weeks ahead of his week 6 return or week 7, whatever it's going to be. If you get one of those Kansas City receivers that pops off for the first handful of weeks and then takes a dip, Jameson Williams, he's the answer to solve that problem. Same thing with like the Houston receivers. Maybe you have Robert Woods randomly on your team and he plays well for the first 5 games before getting hurt. And then Jameson Williams, he becomes the answer or solution to that problem.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm probably just going to play it where I'm not going to draft him in a lot of my redraft leagues. I'll let other people draft him, and then they're going to make, they're going to have to hold him if they really want him. And I just don't think too many people will be able to, especially in a lot of these, home leagues. You got 15, 16 rounds. Like in that case, I just think that people are going to have to make a tough decision as to either keep him and, if they're doing well, maybe it's not such a hard decision, but if they're not, if they're falling behind in the league, he might be a cut candidate. And that's the time I want to go grab him for my team just to hold him for maybe 2 or 3 weeks as opposed to having to hold him for the entire 6.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I just think that the Lions offense is going to be a vacuum for scoring opportunities. No dissimilar to the other higher scoring teams in the league. You and I got into that conversation a few weeks back about, the Lions versus the Buffalo Bills. They had a 5-point spread. You would have thought that damn cat's back. You would have thought that the Bills would have scored, 50 more points, not 5 more points than the Detroit Lions, given, their talent at quarterback. So I think that also just a lot of people discount what Jared Goff can do. This is still a guy that's thrown for over 5,000 passing yards in a season. Of course, it was with Sean McVay. He had Cooper Kupp as a receiver, but I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Cooper Kupp, they're really not that different in ADP right now. Their value per the market for whether it be props or fantasy value, they're very close. 5 players separate them at the receiver position?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's a pretty good situation for any of those guys. Obviously, we're smashing Amon-Ra wherever we can, but I think Jameson Williams will be super profitable come the end of the season. You don't win the fantasy championship in weeks 1 through 5. You win it in week 17. Talk about that correlation. Talk about that week 17 Dallas Detroit game. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who else you got?
I mean, really, I don't have anybody else, but if you want me to talk about a little bit of Puka, I know, again, he's a really late guy. I'm not saying to go draft him in your redraft leagues.
I specifically want to ask you, Puka or Michael Wilson? Who would you rather have? Let's say it's your last pick.
That's a tough one because I think Michael Wilson has a better shot at catching touchdowns than Puka may.
Oh, I think he's going to catch more receptions, period. I think he's going to be the number 2 on that team.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing is that Puka could potentially be the number 2 on the team. I think it's going to take maybe a little bit. He's going to have to pass Van Jefferson, which I know you're higher on than I am. But
Tyler Higbee.
And Higbee as well. But Wilson, I mean, you have Trey McBride. I mean, Trey McBride was, for all intents and purposes, decent last year, and I think he can establish himself a little bit more this year, especially with if they're going to have Colt McCoy behind center. Colt McCoy, I mean, we talk about this. Every time you have a rookie quarterback or a quarterback just coming in, they want to rely and keep the ball close to the vest again. They want to rely on a guy that is closer to them, and that's going to be Trey McBride. So I do feel – I like Michael Wilson. That's a tough one for me because I do like Michael Wilson probably more than some, of the average fantasy players. But I got a lot of love for Puka. I mean, we saw him score a touchdown in the preseason already. He's been all the stuff coming out of camp and OTAs and training camp and everything has just been, glorifying Puka and what he's been able to do here. So I think I'll still go Puka just because I got blinders on for him. But that's a good comparison for me. Michael Wilson, also a guy that you can get late in drafts that is of value.
Yeah, I would go Michael Wilson there, like just a clear path to production, less obstacles. You mentioned Trey McBride.
Puka has a better quarterback, though.
Yeah,
at least right now to start.
He does.
Yeah,
but at the same time, Puka's still got to get on the field. Like Michael Wilson, I feel like could be a starter week 1.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you on that. I think Michael Wilson. If we were doing a bet first 5 weeks, it's Michael Wilson all day. If we go after that, I think Puka could keep up with Michael Wilson on that. And again, I think that the Rams have a better shot at performing better this year than what the Cardinals do. So again, I'll just lay my chips on Puka. Plus, way better name, Puka Nacua versus Michael Wilson. Come on.
Michael Wilson sounds like the receiver you draft in Madden that becomes like your Hall of Fame wide receiver. Like, oh, I drafted him. He's randomly a 78. Then he was an 86. Then he was a 92. Now he's a 99. Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison? Who would you rather have? Who's a better breakout candidate?
Addison, just because he has less path in front of him. But man, you know what? Hold on, let me think about that for a second. So Quentin Johnston, better quarterback in my eyes, more high-powered offense.
Yep.
But is going to be at best 3 on the team, potentially 4, depending on how much they want to really use Everett. I mean, we saw what Dallas did last year with their tight end, and now the offensive coordinator came from Dallas, and so that could potentially be something that Quentin Johnston has to deal with as well. Addison, probably the 3 on the team already. Man, that's a tough. Yeah. I'd probably still go Addison, but Quentin Johnston's very exciting. Like if Mike Williams continues to not be able to catch the ball and land on his feet, Quentin Johnston might be your he could be a league winner.
He lands on his feet, just not as limber as my cat does. He lands on his feet and he gets right back up here. Michael Williams lands on his feet in the inappropriate way and just stays down. And you're just like, is that a dead body? Is that Josh Reynolds? Oh my goodness. I would go Quentin Johnston there just for the red zone upside. I don't see Jordan Addison scoring more touchdowns than Quentin Johnston. Maybe
you do think Addison gets more targets though, right?
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, but I think it could be close. And I think it's close enough that touchdown spread for Johnston would keep him ahead for me.
Over under 15 targets difference at the end of the year?
Probably under.
Under? Okay.
Yeah. Let me try to think of another one. Elijah Moore or Gabe Davis. Who's a better breakout candidate this year?
Gabe Davis, 100%.
Just the offense? Just
offense.
More scoring opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we saw what he did.
The Browns invested in him. I mean, they gave up some draft capital for him.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure. But I don't know. I mean, Gabe Davis, we saw what he did last year. He finished as like wide receiver 30-something. He was hurt. Josh Allen got hurt with the elbow thing, and he still finished as a wide receiver like 30-something. I think that the offense is just so much more potent in Buffalo. I'll just lay my eggs on Gabe Davis on there.
Okay. Luke Musgrave or Dalton Kincaid? Oh, that's tight ends. Sorry. Have to wait for the next episode. Get a little ahead of myself.
Hold on. Let me pull up my draft from last night because I'll ask you just like 2 here real quick. Because there's a couple that when I always get to it, I'm like, what am I doing here? Yeah. So Jahan Dotson or Michael Pittman?
I'm gonna go Pittman.
Just
I've been banging the Pittman drum all off season though. You know that.
Is it targets for you? Is that why?
It's opportunity. It's like he should lead his team in targets, receiving yards, and maybe not receiving touchdowns. I think that could be up in the air, but he should. He's the guy.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. And I had this conversation last night with Megan on FanSpeak and she's a Washington fan as well. So we're both high on Dotson, but I picked Pittman on the team and I made the case to her about it's opportunity for him. So I agree with you 100% there. It's just, it's always those two I'm staring at and I'm like, oh man, I love Dotson, but Pittman's opportunity is so much, his ceiling is higher on target share. So yeah, that's one.
And the offense in general for the Commanders, we talked about this just earlier in the show. They have a ton of opportunities, a lot of targets there, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, no, I agree. So let's go here. The last one I want to give you real quick is JSN or George Pickens?
That's a good question. I think JSN still. That offense has a lot of weapons. They're going to pass the ball a lot more. The identity of the Steelers offense will and needs to be Najee Harris. And I just don't know if there's enough mouths to feed there for all of those receivers to put up elite numbers. Folks at the Fantasy Football Expo were trying to put me on the path that Pat Freiermuth is going to be that dude this year. He's going to come back, down to like more of his rookie production. And that would be shocking to me, but I was hearing a lot of good nuggets about that in Canton, about why he should be more prioritized than I am at least prioritizing him. I have him outside my top 12 for tight ends. But it's just a tough sell for me because, you're going to have a ton of targets going to Deontay Johnson. I got to expect that George Pickens is going to make a lot of big plays. I mean, his athleticism, his size, that ability to go up and just, go to the peak of the ball. He's an excellent receiver. I just don't see the volume being there. Now, shifting over to Seattle, I see this team being in the red zone a lot. And I don't think there's going to be any rhyme or reason of who they're going to give the ball, whether it's Walker, Charbonnet, any of these receivers. DK Metcalf is, I believe, my most exposed player now. I think he's, or maybe he's just the top
led the NFL in his team's target share in the red zone. 46%.
Who's DK? Yep. Yeah. We talked about that on a previous show.
Yeah.
DK.
So it's always an interesting stat to me.
Maker wide receiver. But I mean, I just got to feel that JSN can really carve out a role. I mean, his skill set coming out of the slot, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf really opening up the field for you. I have to imagine they're going to use him in a lot of creative ways. So I got to go JSN there. I feel like Pickens has a higher ADP though.
So actually in this draft last night, JSN went 54, George Pickens went 58.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's all we got.
Yes, sir. Before we head out, though, I do again want to remind the people of draft day tomorrow. Again, we do this for fun, but the true meaning behind it is, we're collecting donations for a charity, for a foundation that, is, as people will look into it. We do have the page up now that says all about the I'm Able Foundation, what they do for the wounded, whether it's a veteran or an athlete, just people who want to remain active can, it can do a lot. Their statement is they help people find the possible when they think it's impossible. So it's a very good foundation. I encourage everyone, if you're able to, it's not, you most certainly can just jump in and do best ball teams with us, chat it up. That's not a problem. Buy some merch if you want, whatever the case may be. But if you are able to, a simple $25 donation, whatever, everything will help. I do want to, sneak peek behind me. This is the first look for everybody. Draft day, new poster. Let me pull this up here a little bit so you can see my pretty face there with Kramer. New draft day posters. We will be getting some signed ones sent out to people. I have not been given the green light to sign them myself yet. I know Kramer will be signing them, but if you want my old John Hancock on there as well, I am more than willing to do so. But yeah, so the shirts will kind of look like that. We're going to have 100% of the proceeds of the merch go to the I'm Able Foundation as well. So if you just want to grab some merch to remember, the day you spent a shit ton of hours drafting best ball teams with Kramer and I and a slew of excellent guests as well. So make sure you get in there. Go to the Just Giving page. That'll be up there. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com to the store. Search all the draft day merch. Again, it's for a good cause. It's fun. But, we do it so that we can help people as well live a normal life. And so, yeah, I appreciate everyone. Hope to see you guys in the best ball streets, baby.
Going to be good stuff. Go check out Draft Day 3 tomorrow. Starts at, is it 3 Pacific?
3 Eastern, 12 Pacific.
3 Eastern. 24 hours of best ball. Andrew and Kramer getting down on it. I'll be jumping on at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern. Going to be a lot of fun. It's for a great cause. Next year, we're going to do Cats of America because this guy's going to be going up for adoption. Just got hair all over me. I don't know if you saw, he's just trying to swat me in the face. Unreal.
Cats, man. Ugh.
Well, he thinks he's a dog. So, in fact, here, let's see. Let's go play fetch. Should have did that to start. Now he just ran off. How easy was that? All right, we're going to head out. Thanks for everybody stopping by. Be sure to smash the like button on YouTube. Give the episode a download on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Take care. Be well. Be good. And if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.